healers and just kind of video a conversation about what you do so I can kind of help promote everybody. And so that's how I got here.
That's lovely. So, do you want me to share a little bit, or do you want to have questions and
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to hear about your story and how you got to be doing all these wonderful things that you do.
Great. Well, I think it started for me many years ago when I always been knowing that I need to work with people in different ways. And I remember very clearly when I was a young adult and I was choosing what to do with my life. And I was in kind of wanting to explore massage, but then I didn't. And then somehow I ended up being a tattoo artist and a completely different. So since I was 22, I've been working with people and every day interacting with people and meeting and even touching people because of the tattooing. And I noticed that I actually do a lot of other work too in my work.
Mhm.
So people who were my clients, tattoo clients, they mentioned they felt healed, they felt presence, they felt calm when I was around, and they started to share a lot of deep things about their lives. They started to um, ask guidance without even knowing why they felt so comfortable asking me. So I noticed that this is something that I can use here as well. So my gifts, I was born this way. I was born very gifted, and everybody's born gifted, but for me it was on the outside. I already knew that I was really special. Um, so I think later on in my years of tattooing, I'm 42 now, 42 or 43. And I started when I was 20. So 20 until 22, I was apprenticing and I started to explore my own abilities in work. And I met with a lot of wonderful people who also became mentors and mentors in the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. And then many things happen in my life. Like many people have their own experiences of why they need healing, why they need guidance and clarity. And so was the same thing for me. So I took my journey, spiritual journey or life path, and I explored. So that's how I ended up where I live today, which is in Bali. I'm not from here. So I came here on a healing journey for myself.
Yeah.
And this is where I explored more of healing. I explored shadow work and different modalities of healing for myself. And I learned so much about myself and I learned about different modalities. So this is probably where my life started to shape and I started to realize this is what I can do for others. So being in probably the rock bottom of my life, 9 years ago, 8 years ago that started, I knew that this is my path. So lately I have been exploring and how I can help my clients in a professional way, not only through tattooing, but actually professionally do healing and guidance, psychic guidance, and I offer mediumship and I offer channeling for guides, and then focusing on healing.
Yeah.
So that's the background of what I do.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
kind of similar. Yeah. It seems like every healer, it comes out so much easier when you've also been down that journey and you've
Mhm.
like had to do your shadow work and you've had struggles that you've managed to get through and that somehow shapes you to be able to help other people with similar things that you've been through because nobody wants to go to someone who hasn't experienced any trauma.
Yeah.
And so I think that was, that seems to be a big part of every healer's journey is, when I started coming into healing, I had a mentor too, but she kept saying, "You've got to do the work. You've got to do the work." And I didn't quite understand at that point what she was even talking about.
What do you mean?
It's like I'm here, I'm ready, let's do it. But I didn't understand what the work was, you know. And so I kind of am on this journey to, interview everyone, get their story out there. People that are curious about what me and you do and other people, I think they're more prone to kind of look for these type of videos and get an idea of what it actually is to have a healing session, have Reiki, have shadow work before they just book an appointment and actually commit to something like that. So that's kind of where I got to doing these. Just started a couple of months ago, but I love meeting other healers. There's just this energy that plays back and forth, you know, and I'm like a kid at Disney World. It's just like,
It's
uh, when you meet someone that gets it and you can have those conversations with them, there's just this energy that builds back. And that's why I like to get on here and, record the very first conversation that we have because it's powerful, it's raw, it's magical. And I just want to share that because, it's hard to explain, but I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you get with your people, there's just this energy, there's presence that builds, and I want to get that out there, and I want people to know wonderful healers like like yourself, and hear your story, and not be afraid to go down their own shadow work journey and work on their self because this is new to a lot of people, especially in America. Certain parts in America, like California, New York, it's maybe a little bit more into healing, but there's a lot of places in the United States that still look at that as witchcraft and voodoo, and they just don't understand it. So I'm just trying to educate people and introduce all these wonderful healers. And so I know you've got a long list of what you do. So can we kind of like start with one thing and kind of talk about it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do a lot of things, and it's become that way that I don't want to limit myself, but I also have all these things to give. So in healing, I work intuitively, and that means that I don't follow a protocol. Basically, there is nothing to say, oh, now you need to do this and now you need to do this, but I follow each person. So in a healing session, I would feel into where we probably need to work more, and I use my psychic abilities. So I have all psychic senses, which is clair senses that I use in my sessions. So when I call my work, it's called multidimensional because I'm able to see in the different bodies. So I work with your mental body, the subconscious mind. That's the shadow work. Sometimes we have suppressed memories or things that we keep. So in healing and in psychic work, that's where we do the mind. And then I work through the body, the physical body, because in energy we can hold blocks and emotions in our body. And emotions is not only sadness, that could be anger, that could be fear, and that could be so many different emotions that we store in different parts. And I search, kind of scanning the body where we can find the blocks. And I use pendulum. I have a pendulum right here. I have a few, but this is what I work with. So I follow the body, and I see the pendulum is leading where the blocks is, and then I remove the blocks. Same in the chakras. I work with the chakras to remove blocks and make the chakras spin and align. So that's the physical body and the mind. But then I also go into the emotional body, which could be layered, and I can find where there is emotional blocks that is not related into the physical pain, but they are in a different layer.
Yeah.
So sometimes we work in many different layers, and I go all over and I scan where those blocks are. And sometimes I pick up on why they're there. So I take notes. I take a lot of notes in my sessions, and I don't speak. I know a lot of healers speak through the sessions, but I do the opposite. I speak afterwards. So I want the client to fully relax and receive and feel that they are there to just release instead of have to put a pressure on talking, because that could be intense for some to have to deal with. And then I work with the energy field, the aura, so I can see if there is holes or clutter. I call it clutter or junk that is capped there. And that's when I also can find if there is cords or entities, attachments that shouldn't be there. So I work through the layers, and then when I'm done with removing all the blocks, I usually ground the whole body, and I clear, and I use crystals, I use light language, I use the energy that I channel, and then I go in and I hold the space for the body, not only the physical body, but the whole soul. So it's the soul with the energy, the mind, all the bodies that I mentioned. We have so many different type of bodies. Um, and then I go in and I channel where we need to refill or repair or um, change things. So sometimes there is an imbalance in the masculine and the feminine, and those need to be more balanced or at least guided to what needs to be done. So that's when the guidance also comes in my healing sessions. And then I go into the different angles. So I'm standing or sitting. If I do online, I'm sitting by myself, but then I have your body or the client's body as a visualizing where I'm standing in the energy. And then I go in and I channel. So that's when I communicate with your guides, and I don't control anything. So I channel what comes through and allow this to happen for the client and be basically the vessel to give what they need. And that's why I do everything intuitively, because I don't want to be in charge. I just see what the client needs.
Yeah.
And it's intuitive. Everything is intuitive. So sometimes there is light language, sometimes there is light codes, sometimes I use sounds. I use bowls, sound singing bowls. Frequency, I check the frequency to see if we're still like on a low frequency, if the blocks has been removed. I clear. I work very intuitively. Sometimes I only use the bowls, and sometimes I use different type of sounds because it needs to be dealt with differently. The body responds differently, each body.
Yeah. So do you feel like you get that information, or that there's a guide working through you with that, or is it kind of both?
Yeah, usually it's my inner knowing that I just see. I have everything set up around me, so I'm looking around and then I see where my vision is taking me, and then I know. So it's like my inner knowing, but also sometimes I hear my guides or their guides. So we're all co-working. It's me, my guides, their guides. So and also their higher self. So sometimes it's their higher self that's connecting to me and they say what they need, and sometimes it's their guides, and then sometimes it's my guides. So we kind of co-work, and that's why sometimes I can reach into past lives and clear old things that isn't even related to this person that I'm with. And sometimes I can clear ancestral patterns, so what we inherited. So the sessions go really deep. And with my notes, I can explain to the client what we have done and why it feels like this. And then they could express afterwards how they feel. And if they don't want to, that's up to them. So it's no pressure. And we keep the space like a container, so it's there to share. And some people want to integrate on their own, and sometimes they talk with me afterwards. So it's a whole, um, yeah, I don't even know what to call it. That's why for me, it's my, I just do what I do, and then people ask, what does it make it so deep? And this is it. This is
Yeah, similar with mine. I don't feel like I do frequency work, but I also do. It's kind of hard to label yourself sometimes, but I work with my gods, and they no session is really the same. It's kind of um, it's hard to explain. Like sometimes I know what you mean by sometimes you'll use the bowls or sometimes you'll do this. So when I have a client, it just depends on what I get pulled into doing. They can come see me for a sound bed session, and if I pick up that they need something else, then we do that too if it's okay with them. So I do have like bookable things, but I completely get what you're saying that you're pulled to do sometimes more or less depending on what the situation is.
exactly. And what you just said is good to point out, because I do have bookable sessions, but sometimes we just feel that this is not what they need. So I offer, for example, psychic readings. I offer card guidance with oracle cards or tarot, and I offer mediumship sessions. And like sometimes we have booked a session and then we start to talk and then it turns out to something else. It's very, very common. And
I'm glad it's not just me.
I think when we start to trust our own intuitive abilities, and we can be the facilitator holding this space, so we use all our capacities and not limiting ourselves. And I think that's what makes it so easy to receive. Is if we start to limit, then we don't give our full capacity. Of course, it becomes a difference in the pricing maybe if we charge for something and then we actually do something that is more. So that's our boundaries that we need to communicate and maybe have open discussion. This is what I feel. Do you want to do that? And then it's a consent with the client and myself. So that's what sometimes we just need to go with the flow and let the client feel what feels good. And if they go with the flow and they agree, that's probably what they came for. They didn't know.
So, for
Yeah.
instance, if you had a client that showed up with an entity and you picked up on that, then that would be something that you would probably bring up and say, "Hey, do you want to address this?"
Should we do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's common, and it could be attachments. I usually don't separate. I just call it attachments because it could be a cord from a person living, and it doesn't need to be an entity. But if I feel there is a negative impact, that could be a negative person, like an energy from a negative alive person. Uh, so I like to feel into how it feels like, how I can address it, how I can remove it, because that's the thing in my sessions. I don't speak during the healing. And if I notice it, I would deal with it. So it's kind of taken care of. But then we talk about it and then we can go deeper if the work is needed.
yeah,
So and I had an interesting session a few weeks ago in person with it was a couple, and they came for guidance. They wanted to have a guidance because they were experiencing um, things in their family. They couldn't really put the finger on what was going on, and they asked for it to come together to have their card guidance. So they basically booked for cards. And then the husband was saying that he probably would feel that he needed to have some sort of mediumship connection to have a closure because he lost some people in his life.
yeah,
And then we changed. And then the third thing that happened is that he actually realized that this is shadow work for him. So the session twisted 3 times to be first guidance and then a mediumship reading and then shadow work for him. And it was so much released. And if he would have the time, because he was only limited amount of time in Bali, he probably would have booked energy healing as well because he felt the pressure was, it's like the lid was lifted from his chest, but he needed to process it.
yeah,
So I said to him, I also do online, but he still not yet contacting me. So who knows if he feels the pull sometime that he will need. So this is what also usually happens with my clients is that in card guidance, for example, we use cards to see clarity or insights. But then there could be so clear that the client has a lot of heavy load from the past that they need to explore, they need to address, they need to do their work. And then I guide them. So this is where I involve coaching. So psychic readings can also involve coaching, that we start to talk. So it's not me using my psychic abilities, that I coach in the way I know things. So then sometimes we meet, oh, this is possibly an emotional trauma that they haven't processed. And then they start to reflect, integrate in the session. And one thing that is kind of interesting, a friend called it my superhero power. So one of the things that I do as a healer, and also as a, I don't know if this is part of my psychic abilities, is when I meet blocks and releases, I burp, I sigh,
Yeah.
or tears coming, or there is yawning, and sometimes shivers. Not so common that I do, but the more is burp, that I burp or sigh or yawn. Um, so sometimes in the card guidance or the coaching sessions, I burp and I sometimes yawn and I sigh. And I tell the clients, this is we releasing, like us both releasing something that has been coming up to the surface and ready to be released. And kind of often it turns out that we book later on a healing session. So that's why my work goes hand in hand. And I guess many other healers or people who work with a lot of different modalities, that we can guide people in the different ways. So it's very common that my clients sometimes book card guidance and then healing and alternate between, or even coaching.
Yeah. I know that I had went through like a counseling type thing as a child, and I remember being like, "Oh, that was so wonderful," and like I want to help people too. And but then I became a nurse, so that's my profession is nursing. But had an awakening a couple of years ago and got drawn to energy healing. Met a bunch of wonderful healers, and it just sparked my interest to know. I wanted to know more, and I had a Reiki session where I had the tear release, and I had things happen to me. I saw auras. I couldn't really explain at that time what that was, but I wanted to know more. And so that's what kind of led me to this years later is um, spiritualism. It's I like to tell people I'm almost 40. Well, I'll be 49 this year. And I say, if this is what a midlife crisis looks like, I love it.
Bring it on.
I don't need a fancy car. This is great. Learning, being able to, I feel like, do you not feel like a lot of women, especially around their 40s, is when they kind of pull this together and start being able to like, it's been like a journey to get to know who I am.
It's true.
Yeah. And it's like, it's great that it always seems to come after we're kind of finishing up with motherhood. And it's like you got that moment where, if it wasn't for COVID and me switching gears where I could start working from home, then I wouldn't have had time to watch videos and like learn about energy. Because when you're working that 9 to 5 job, you don't have a lot of free time to learn about anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like it's like the choose your own adventure book this year, and everyone is waking up and getting to a part where they're given a choice that, hey, would you like to learn more about yourself? And it's just fascinating, and just what little bit I've been able to learn and unlock about my soul and my guides and my journey is been so inspiring. And that's what I want to help give other people is, um, I don't want to tell you what to believe or how to live. I just want you to investigate you, learn about you a little bit more. And coming from a person that has struggled with self worth and self love, um, this is the best thing I've ever done for myself, was just tapping into who I am and way beyond just this person in this body. So yeah, I'm excited and I can't, I just want to talk to everybody and share everybody's story and get the word out there that there is so much people are missing out on by not um, checking into and investigating things that lead you to yourself.
It's true. And
Yeah.
also something that it's kind of hand in hand of what you said. It's we change, and we are not the same person as we were yesterday because we change, and we can change our opinions, and we can change the way we value things. And many people don't understand that we can do that, and that's why a lot of people feel they're stuck in a loop, in sometimes old beliefs and old values that doesn't resonate anymore. And that's what I try to help a lot of people, but I also see it in my friends, in my family, and that it's okay to change. And some people have that fear of, like, who am I if I change? Who am I if I start to uh, completely change what I believe in beliefs of spirituality, or
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a spiritual way, but if I start to change, and then they start to feel a big fear. So that's probably what I meet in clients, is it's a fear that they have their comfort zone, and they know who they are, but then they realize they don't really know who they are, because there is more things to understand. And that's I think is also what we do as facilitators. Like, we have our ways to help people to understand, if they start to feel through a healing session that there is more, we have helped them to reach their higher potential, and they start to kind of maybe revalue and change health, or ways of thinking, or even ways of speaking, or to themselves. Like you mentioned about self-worth and self-value, that's something that is big, I think, in healing. Energy healing is not just energy for me. I think every healer gives a little bit of everything to their clients to bring them into a self boost, or self confidence, or speaking their truth, or be more aware through everything that we restore, or repair. I notice a lot of times when clients, they feel changes into their cells, they truly feel that there is a change happening. And I believe that this is when we start to kind of rewire, that we have lived a whole life. Imagine 40 years, or even if somebody comes and they're in their 60s or 50s, and they start to realize, this has been me for so many years, and it's not truly me. So they start to reflect a lot, and that could be really heavy. So a lot of people who start to awaken in the later years, because in our teens, in our young adults, we don't usually do that, because we are busy with exploring our life.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that
Yeah.
after, we have our young age of the learning, and then we start to be kind of settling in, and that's when a lot of people have midlife crisis, because they start to be like, hey, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted, or why does it feel like this?
Yeah, because as you're in school, and then as a teenager, you're busy. It's like the world keeps you so busy
Yeah,
that you don't have time to stop and say, wait a minute.
right.
You just don't. And it wasn't until, COVID did that for a lot of people, because the world kind of had to slow down there for a moment.
Yeah,
And like I said, I actually had time to like do some research and learn about things that I wanted to pursue, not that I was told I had to. You know, when you're in school and in college or at work, you're learning things all the time, but they're telling you this is
Yeah.
what you've got to learn and this is what you've got to do.
Yeah.
Really have that time here in America to just sit back and say, you know, I want to learn how to do so and so. It's always a reason behind it because you're trying to get a new job or because you're going back to school. There's not a lot of, I just wanted to explore that.
Yeah.
And um, so, yeah, I mean, COVID did create that for a lot of people in the world because it made us slow down a little bit. And then when I had that experience with a healer, that I couldn't explain. you know, um, I guess you got the two types of people that just walk away and dismiss it, or at that point, it sparked my curiosity.
Mm.
And then when you get into like past lives with myself, certain movies that I loved as a child, one of them is called Xanadu. And it's like everyone's on roller skates, but it's like this one's got a yellow aura and this one's got a blue aura. And like you start learning, like, that's why I love that movie because the movie sucks. It's not a good movie. But as a child, I recognized that,
Yeah.
you know. And then you start learning that there were signs that you were, when you learn that your likes and your fears are often connected to a past trauma or an experience. I always was fascinated with sign language. And when I do healing, I do like, I didn't know what I was doing, but they were like, well, that's light language.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
taught that in this lifetime. But it made sense to me why I had this book on sign language that I just could never put down. Like it fascinated me, but it was my soul remembering. And so it's just, it's so exciting to go on that journey with someone and a mentor or another healer to like help bring your awareness to those things. Um, yeah, like as a nurse, as a healer, I've always been worried about everyone else and looking outward,
Mm.
making sure everyone's taken care of. And I didn't really even have an existence. I think here in America, my generation, we lived through our children. So, like, I didn't really have a personality, even. It was, I was so and so's mother, and I did what she did. If she cheerleaded, then I was there. If she played sports, I was there. It wasn't so much, my personal existence. I lived through someone else. And so getting to that point where it's not selfishness, but just to that point where I got to learn who I really was and what I like to do, and then to turn that around and be able to help other people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I couldn't ask for anything more.
And that's beautiful, I think, when we start to find that kind of soul path or life path that we follow it. And a lot of people maybe feel that pull, but they don't know how. They don't know what to do about it. And that's what you said in the beginning. Is like if you meet somebody who says you need to do your work, and you're like, how? So, or you need to do healing, and they're like, how? So that's probably why we are here. And a lot of people are currently awakening to understand, and the people already awakened is there to show the way and help.
That's what my guides were telling me about doing these because people are going to be looking for, they have questions and they're curious about these different modalities, and they have questions. And not that I didn't have a good mentor, but like she had been awakened her whole entire life, all everything. And so she kind of talked over my head a lot. And I was so green when I woke up, I didn't know what doing. She was like, I can't do your work for you. And I'm like, what are you talking? what work? But what I learned through my own trials was paying attention to what triggered me, what made me upset like that, what made me angry, what those were my body's cues that, okay, why does that make me so upset when that happens? That's how I kind of figured out how to do the work. But I'm just being honest, I had no idea what she was talking about forever.
It's similar when I had people that I wanted to learn from, and I asked questions, and then they just said, "You will understand when you're ready. You will understand." They didn't help me, and I was so angry. I was frustrated. But then I also met people who just told me without explanation, "Do you know how powerful you are?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't. I don't have a clue.
Yeah,
Nobody helped me."
I had paid for an Akashic reading, and the first thing she told me was, "Well, your guides say that they want to talk to you about this later." And I was like, "Are you?"
I think this is very common that a lot of people hold the information and they don't want to share because either they don't want to share anything for without energy exchange, like no payment, no energy exchange, which makes sense now when I understand. But sometimes it's frustrating to hear and also to not understand what is the work I need to do and how. I actually created a workbook because a lot of people that I met in my sessions, I knew that they needed to do shadow work. It was clear, and I tried to explain it, and a lot of people has no clue what shadow work is. So I actually created a shadow workbook that I have on my website, and it's do it yourself. It's called the Inner Journey Shadow Work DIY. So it's easy to step, like how to do it, what is it, how do I do it, and how to integrate and how to understand that the work has been done. And that has helped a lot of people. Like a lot of people, imagine if you're like when both of you and me started, for example, and we just agreed that we were green. We didn't understand much and nobody would tell us. And this book has helped a lot of people to understand when I say you need to do the work. I also usually explain, but a lot of people don't explain and leave people with more question mark than they came with and not understanding. So I do mentorship as well. It's not my main thing, but I do help people on more like a beginner level to understand what is going on and why do I feel this, or how do I change or stop it, or how do I protect myself, how do I ground myself. A lot of those things is what I do in my mentorships, uh, and also help people to do shadow work, to understand the shadow work. And a lot of people, they learn something but then they want to already be here, there.
Yeah,
In the
I'm an Aries, and so I wanted it yesterday, And I guess it was like I thought in the beginning, well, I just got to meditate more. I've got to do breath work more. I've got to, if I do it more, it's going to make it come quicker. And then, of course, I paid someone else to talk to my guides for me because at the time I didn't know that I was already hearing them. And she was like, they're telling me to tell you that you've got to understand that you set the timeline before you came here and that nothing is going to happen until you said it is, no matter what, no matter you jump up and down or, throw a fit, it's not going to do it. And then I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of really did help me to just kind of surrender to like, okay, it, I've just got to, when it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. But that was hard for me because when you first wake up, you've got that energy and that zest, and it's like you want it now. And
yeah.
it took me a while to calm myself down but they just had to pretty much tell it to me like it was. Like, you can have your 2-year-old fit all you want, but your gifts are not going to mature until you said they were, and this is not going to happen until it's supposed to. And then I was kind of like,
Yeah. Similar to, I also tell a lot of people to just surrender to the process, trust the process, and then we can do learning, we can do understanding, we can take courses, we can have mentors, but also we need to trust the process. And this is what frustrated me when they said, my mentors that I met, and they said, oh, when you're ready, you will understand. And I did eventually, but I was, maybe I wasn't ready, and they knew that, but they didn't say it in an educational way. So yeah, I guess a lot of people can choose how they can explain things in a more learning and educational way, but that's where there is mentors, and then there is the people who is not a mentor, and they just know, but they don't say it in the right way.
I know. And so that lady that I had paid, she would only tell me that I was supposed to do something for my community.
Mm.
And me being green back then, I thought, okay, I'm going to be volunteering at the old folks' home. It's like I didn't know what she meant by you're going to be doing something for your community. So what I've done is I've opened up my own healing center for the community. And so now I know more of what um, she was talking about that my guides wanted to unfold with me at a later time. But so she did tell me a little bit, at that time, but it was so frustrating when you pay someone and you're asking questions and then they tell you, well, they really don't want you to know that right now.
That happens. Like I have sessions when I channel guides, and the guides are saying, yeah, you need to go and do your work first. I mean, you can still bypass your healing, but then you're gonna have to go back there later. And that's very common that the guides is showing what is it that you need to know. And right now that's not important because this is more important. And they will say that. So it's interesting to, you can start in different ends, but doing the healing or the inner work, the shadow work, the inner child work is always important. And a lot of people want to maybe learn skills and practice that, which is good, but you always need to go back and probably do some sort of work at some point. And I meet a lot of clients who feel just stuck. They can't move anywhere in which direction they want to, if they want to change their behavior or life or job or relationship, and they just feel stuck. And usually that's pointing to that there is shadow work because you're done doing the looping, you're done doing repeating things, and it comes to a point, and this is part of your life path. So the life path could actually be that you're supposed to explore, and that's this life, or this is what you need to do for the next 30 years is to explore. And that's great, but some people have reached there, now is the time to learn. And that's when you start to can't move anywhere until you do those kind of things. So I guess for some people it could feel like life is just a flow because they don't have any lessons to learn. um,
Well, one
so
thing I wasn't aware of, for people that's working on shadow work, I didn't realize that, let's say I needed to work on self love, and then I felt like, okay, I conquered that. No, there's like layers and layers sometimes of, oh, well, you did good, you learned that lesson, but now we're going to send it through one more time, a little tougher, and let's see how you do with it. So sometimes I didn't realize that once you've healed something, sometimes they'll throw it at you again just to make sure that you did, you're going to do appropriate when faced with it again. And like, that's low. That's not fair. It's like studying for a test, and then you put the book aside because you passed the test, and then they give you a surprise test later. And I just thought that's not fair, but you do. I've been tested several times of Are you going to maintain that boundary that you set? Are you going to allow that person to take advantage of you? Are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you going to continue to speak your truth no matter what? So once work on those shadows, they come back around. It's not a check, one and done.
Yes, yes. It's
Yeah,
actually something that I usually visualize it because it's easy sometimes to understand with a picture or like an easy symbol. So when people are stuck in, I call it a loop. It's like a circle. So you live your life and you just go on and living your life and you never change. That's fine. But sometimes you feel stuck that you want to change but you can't. So that's when I show the spiral. So the spiral means that you do changes, but then you kind of meet your triggers again, and you meet those lessons, and then you go back again and you change, and then you meet again. So it's something that I always talk about, the spiral, and there is I think it's a Buddhist symbol that is called Path of Enlightenment. It's called Unalom. It's a symbol that is a spiral, and then it goes into spiraling curves kind of a lot. And then when it's done, it becomes a straight line. So it's called the path of enlightenment, which means that you will go through a spiral of learning, revisiting, and learning and growing. And
yeah,
then you're going to do more exploring side to side. So this means that you can go back to revisiting past and trying new things. It's a great symbol. I can draw it for you if you never have you seen it before?
I have. Or there's a breath symbol or something that's got that weaving pattern that I was seeing. Yes, yes, and that also looks like a staff. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really beautiful. I have it tattooed a lot of my places in my body, but it's a great reminder that life is a path that we learn. We learn from mistakes, we learn from lessons, or sometimes we need to relearn things or revalue things. So I think it's a great symbol to understand.
that was also what my gods gave me. Let me get it over here for part of my business. Was the spiral. I don't know if I've got it here with me, but shows healing frequencies. That I've got the sun, but the sun is a spiral.
Mm,
And they were telling me that I am a architect, a builder of light.
mm,
That I carry both the sun and the water lineage energies, and that I'm here to do grid work and build the community and help anchor things back. And the spiral and the sun has 7 rays coming out because there's some connection with the energy of 7 when you're trying to create something. They keep referring back to like the 7 sisters, the 7 Hathors. There's this 7 energy that they keep coming back to. So I actually have the spiral sun with the 7 rays as part of my business logo.
wow, that's nice. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's,
But so, what else do you like? You is that do you like you said you had mediumship that you help with too? How does that come in for you? Have you always been able to communicate with spirit, or is that something that you had to work on?
That's probably the one of the things that was the largest, the loudest thing when I was a child was my mediumship because I would talk to and see. Nobody else understood what I was talking about, and so yeah, that was one of my probably strongest abilities as a child. And I I probably got scared several times of not understanding. And one, I think, I can't remember when I started to explore it more. I was in my teens, and I started to find metaphysical shops.
Yeah.
And I started to explore, and I bought my first pendulum, and I was 18, I think. And then I started to work with house cleansing, not knowing what I was doing really, but I had mentors, and then I was helping friends, and I was moving. like walking, kind of scanning. Same when I scanned the body um, in the room, in the house, and I could feel where there is strong presence, and then I could connect to the spirit and remove them. So I was probably like the strongest connection when I was in my like middle teens, and I started to get stronger and stronger, and I just realized I'm too open. I never shut down, so that was exhausting for me. So I shut it off for many years, and I didn't use my abilities. I just knew they are around if I want them, if I want to connect. And it got very intense when I was tattooing because there were spirits popping in, talking to me and the clients, and they felt the presence through me. So I think I was burned out from this all openness, and I didn't know how to shut it down. I didn't know how to have boundaries. I didn't know when I was still so naive and young. So it was, yeah, probably since I was a child, I've been doing mediumship, but professionally, I started to do it about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Um, so that's when I started to actually just work professionally with all this uh, spiritual things, because before that, I dedicated my whole life for tattooing. And I did it still in the sessions with my clients, the tattoo clients. I was still doing mediumship, and I communicated to spirits, and I could feel their presence, and I could hear when they spoke to me. And the clients resonated with what the spirit said. And I just never know that this is what I am meant to actually work with.
Yeah. I
So,
I have some basic mediumship skills. Um, I wouldn't say that I sit down and set up appointments or advertise that I can do it. It's just one of those things. If they come in when like if I have a client that had someone to pass away and he brings it up, and then all of a sudden I'm getting information, then I don't mind sharing that with the client. But mine's still a little bit, I'm trying to figure it out. I haven't been awake but a few years. I've always had things in my past that would happen, but as a child, I just dismissed them. But I could see orbs. I've had both telepathy conversations and also auditory. I could hear, but it was never like on a consistent. It would just happen.
mm,
So I've just tried to, I guess in the past, I would dismiss all that stuff. And then once I woke up and started really digging into what it was that was going on, and, that's when I started trying to strengthen all those things. And I kind of figured out that I didn't think my guides were talking to me at all. And then I figured out they've been talking to me this whole time. I just didn't know it. And so that's kind of hard to explain sometimes when you're teaching other people that those random thoughts that pop in sometimes are not yours. And that's kind of how I have the all knowing that's really strong. But I keep trying to develop my abilities too. But I don't try as hard as I used to because I've already been told too many times that it happened when it's supposed to. So I kind of
yeah.
you know work on myself, but not get all in a tizzy when it's not coming along as fast as I want it to.
Yeah. And I think for me, and I guess for many people who has their strong abilities, sometimes they go quiet, and
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't feel right. I had moments or periods when I don't want to do mediumship because either it doesn't come through as strong, or I don't feel comfortable doing it. It's sometimes there is just a sensation that doesn't feel good, and I don't do it for a while, and then somebody asks, and I'm like, "Oh, well, I can do it," and then I do it, and then they are so strong and so powerful, the sessions. So I think we just need to do that too. We need to go with our flow. So that's the boundaries and the promise to ourselves to only do things when it feels good. So same with healing. Sometimes we can feel that I don't feel for, I can't do that today. I can't give to somebody else. and we need to take time. We need to have a day off maybe, or me time doing things for ourselves. And that's the same thing. If we keep on going, we're going to end up in a loop, even if it's what we love to do. So
And
always follow flow or surrender to the process. So the process could actually mean that there could be weeks or months that that doesn't come through, because that's how it is.
exactly. And I know with, like you were talking about, even with my healing style, sometimes I'm really empathic, and so sometimes I'll get hit with their emotion, and I'll take it on, and um, I don't feel like I carry people's emotions when I pull it in, but I'll be crying as well. And I feel like that's the release. But it took me a while to understand what that was because, like I said, when you're waking up to your abilities, and I didn't really have a lot of people that I could talk to about it, I had to kind of figure out things, my own way as well. Sometimes I would be on properties and get very nauseous and sick at my stomach and just, out of the blue. And I didn't realize that I was being sensitive to certain areas. I always thought it was something, I ate or something, I always blamed it on something else. But it wasn't until much later in life that I started realizing all these things that kept repeating um, had more of a spiritual connection than what I first, thought it was. But I think that you are amazing, and I just wanted to get on here and do an interview and share you with the world. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
It was lovely to meet you and to hear your story too, and to meet you in this way, and also to be able to share. It was a lovely, lovely chat. And like I told you in the beginning, I was really nervous because I don't really do. I never done a podcast interview, or I do readings, but I never do interviews like this. So this was a big step for me too, to feel comfortable and not saying no. This
Yeah,
was
I'll tell you what my guides told me when I said no. They said, get over it and just do it because you have a frequency and you have a presence that is broadcasting to people that need you. And if you don't do this, they'll never find you. And so, how can you say no to that?
Yeah, it's true. I also usually hear from people that, oh, your voice is so relaxing. And I'm like, really? I don't feel that myself, but that's what I usually hear. So I think I need to be more confident to speak to more crowds.
Well, I think this is just the beginning of your interviews. And like I said, I want people to be able to, when they start waking up and want to be more curious about what multidimensional healing looks like, that they're able to find you. And I hope that receive a ton of bookings, and so you can help people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Means a lot to be part of this and to reach out to more. I hope that will be.
Saying like I'm going to continue to keep doing the frequency hour and keep meeting these lovely healers that I keep getting drawn to. And I don't really want to look at this as an interview. It's just a get to know you and a chit chat. It's kind of how I come off with it because I don't feel like it's an interview style. I just like to say, hey, you're cool. What can you do? And tell me about it because that's kind of how I feel about it when I started meeting healers. It was just like, I can't believe I'm surrounded by these people. And like, I wanted to hear their story and I wanted to understand their process. And because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of information for me um, to figure out what is shadow work and what is the work I'm supposed to be doing. So, and you're just telling everybody that you've got workbooks, you're well versed in all modalities. And for anyone looking for someone, a mentor, or just someone to help them with their abilities and learning more about their blocks and their loops that they can get out of, then they need to contact you. So tell them how they can reach you.
I have a website. It's cosmoskajsa.com. Um, I have all my sessions there. There is a booking system that you can book through, and also a contact form. So everybody can reach me through there. But I also have Facebook. I have a group, and I have a page, and then I have Instagram, similar names. So there is a lot of different ways to reach me, but the website is probably the platform that is easiest because they all link there.
Well, I'll definitely have that in the description so they can get a hold of you. But I appreciate you talking to me, and I hope we can chat some more later.
I hope so. Thank you so much, and have a lovely evening. It's evening for you.
All right.